student lecture nights. So you could say Sherpa took a break on Thursdays. Not really. He would come down to listen to the students' lecture. He would sit in the audience and just sit there and listen. So you're the student, you're lecturing, and here's Sherpa staring at you, nodding. Please lecture, And then he would, at the end, he would say, 大家觉得怎么样啊? 谁讲得最好啊? Who lectured best? What do you all think? So, and then on Saturdays and Sundays when people were off work, he would lecture twice. So we had 4 lectures on the weekdays, and then 2 on Saturday, 2 on Sunday. This is tireless devotion to bringing the words of the Buddha to the West. Now, pretty early on, we realized that we were not going to be able to memorize it all. So we started to use tools to record Sherpa's lectures, and we used Sony reel-to-reel tape recorders. If anybody remembers, those were the tools. They were reliable, they were sturdy. I forget what they're called, B-22 or something, the Sony reel-to-reel tape recorders. That was high-tech at the time. And someone would sit beside Sherpa and record, and then Sherpa would lecture for 10 or 15 minutes. He would stop and do whatever work Sherpa was doing, and then the translator would run it back, and then chunk, and then all of you good and wise advisors. The Avatamsaka Sutra is the Sutra of the Dharma realm. And that's how it happened. And we would translate it and then take notes and then translate it at night and have it by the next morning. That was Sherpa's instructions. And we have individuals here who were very much a part of that process, who actually were doing that work. So some of our volunteers have compiled some images, which I'll just go quickly through because there are many other panelists here who want to speak. There's a legacy of great translators: Venerable Kumarajiva, our Master Xuanzang, Qingliang Guoshi, Master Cheng Guan, Qi Xue Shikshananda, who translated the second version of the Avatamsaka Sutra. And Master Xuanhua, our teacher, copied the methods of the ancients by saying, a lot of the Buddhist sutras, there were some, the Sixth Patriarch Sutra existed in 2 or 3 different versions before the Master came. The Diamond Sutra, the Heart Sutra were popular, even the Lotus Sutra. But by and large, those sutras had been translated by one person, either a scholar who was doing it for research or possibly to get reputation. Sometimes the sutras are translated by missionaries who wanted to present Buddhism, we hope, in a favorable light, possibly not. So there was the way the ancients did it, they used committees. For example, Master Xuanzang had up to 800 people in the room as he translated. And he would have primary translators who were good in... Do we need those lights, by the way? Did those come? Could we turn those back off? It's better without them, right? Yeah, could we turn those lights back off, please? I don't know who did that. Somebody reading their notes over there? They need to get a flashlight. So, over here were the primary translators who could read Sanskrit, and they would interpret these scrolls. And then they would have an editor who would take the edited primary Sanskrit to Chinese, and the editor would listen again, make sure nothing was mistaken, nothing was left out, nothing was duplicated. He would hand it to a polisher who was maybe no good in Sanskrit, but was really good in Chinese, who could put it into fluent, literate, beautiful Chinese text. Then a certifier would say, this translation tallies with the Buddha's mind above and with living beings below. And that would be the four committees in China. So Shifu set us up with 4 committees that way. We had a translator, editor, polisher, and certifier. This was unheard of before. And this all started from people who knew no Chinese to begin. So this is the way Shifu would say, my my stupid methods, my mind-dead methods, which means honest and simple and true, and not sophisticated, but genuine. Day after day, he lectured. Day after day, our Chinese language skills increased. The International Institute for the Translation of Buddhist Texts came along, courtesy of Shen Jiazhen Jushu, 1973. This was the grand opening of the BTTS. And you can see all the guests who came. Oops, don't want to do that. Come back here. This is all of the Sangha at the time, and Master Miao Jing is here. That's Washington Street. That's the IITBT, which also became the girls' school. Washington Street. Yeah, that's early on, and it's no longer in the association, but Shifu would go there on Sundays to lecture. So that's the early IITI. Here is how it was done, again. Shifu would lecture. This is the early days in Gold Mountain. We used couches and whatever we could find to meditate on. Shifu would lecture also on texts that he would write. This is the Shui Jing Hui Tian Lu, the biographies of the patriarchs. Trying to puzzle it out. There's Heng Shun before he left home. Right there, it's you. That's not me, no. Before your time. That's not you? You kid? That's you. That's Heng Shun. Anyway. So, this is how it was done. You know, the motive is what? What did the Buddha say? Do I understand what the Buddha said? That's the motive that would lead a young man to turn on a light so that at night he could individually look into the Buddha's text to find out what they said. Vajrabodhi came along. This is the Orthodox, they say, the Journal of the Orthodox, we don't use that word now, of Orthodox Dharma in the West. And I must say, if anybody is looking for a PhD dissertation topic, someone could profitably investigate these verses and mantras and gathas and pictures on the cover of Vajrabodhi. Shifu said, these images are put in that cover not by chance. He said that it's precisely this magazine with that image on the cover that keeps the demon kings from coming out and running amok, he said. So he linked, Shifu in his wisdom linked the cover of a publication with the pacification of negativity in the world. How much did he value the printed word? You say you set up merit, you set up virtue, you establish print, your words. So he saw these as so important. Vajrabodhi printed the daily schedule. I wish we had more time. We'll come back and look at this later. These are the translators of BTTS. Shifu published their images and their names. He paid very close attention to Vajrabodhi. The staff members of Saba wish our readers a Happy New Year. It was all put together in those days with X-Acto pens and publishing glue. You know, that glue that you stick on that you can restick. It was done by hand. No such thing as a computer. This is the late Liu Jisung, Mr. Liu, teaching a class in calligraphy. He was an advisor to Vajrabodhi. Early cover of the Shami Lu Yi. I might mention that cover. He's not here right now. That cover was hand carved by Master Han Lai. That's a woodblock print of the monks. I've got to go quickly. The first of our publications, first BTTS publication, Pure Land and Chan Dharma Talks. Shi Fa Jie Wu Li Nian Xin, we did it ourselves on a typewriter. Then our books improved. They became, they went from the hand-done, hand-illustrated, hand-bound, to a little more sophisticated presentation in the 90s. And then even more so. Here's the Fa Hua Jing, the early version and the later version of the Fa Hua Jing version number 2 in terms of presentation. The Fa Jing again. Then the ITI, International Translation Institute, came along in Burlingame, 1989. Grand opening, the mayor there to cut. And by the 90s, our publications were this many. You'll hear today that we have 400 titles out. So, gotta go quickly. Let me show you those. If you would like to know